Hello there, and welcome to the Drift to the Stars. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. There is a particular kind of quiet that comes when you stop trying to hold the day together and simply let it set like the sun does without struggle. That is the quiet we are reaching for here. Not sleep forced, but sleep allowed. Tonight we are going to drift toward something far away and very old, a galaxy called Andromeda, and we are going to take our time getting there. There is no hurry. There never was. And just before we begin, if these calm, curious explorations help you unwind, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. So settle in. Let your shoulders drop a little lower than they were. Let the weight of you be held by whatever is holding you. Now if you're ready, let's begin. There is a light arriving at Earth tonight that began its journey before any human being ever spoke a word aloud. Think of that for a moment. Long before the first story was told around a fire, before there were names for the stars, before there was anyone to wonder, this light was already on its way. It set out across the dark and simply kept going, patient and unhurried. While down here, whole civilizations rose and forgot themselves and rose again. The light from the Andromeda Galaxy takes around 2.5 million years to reach us, which means the glow you might catch on a clear night left its source long before our species had language. It is older than every word ever whispered, and yet here, it is falling softly on a world that learned to look up. There is something gentle in knowing that the oldest thing you will see tonight is also one of the most patient. For all that we have learned about Andromeda, there is a great deal we still cannot see. The galaxy is wrapped in something we can only sense by its pull, a vast invisible weight that shapes how it moves. Picture a swimmer in dark water, their presence felt only by the ripples spreading outward, the body itself hidden. That is how scientists know Andromeda's halo of dark matter is there at all. We can map the bright stars, trace the glowing arms, but the true shape of that surrounding halo remains uncertain. Researchers still don't fully agree on how far it extends or what form it takes. It is one of those honest mysteries that sits at the edge of what we know. And there is a comfort in that, in remembering that even the brightest minds are still leaning toward the dark, still wondering, still at ease with not yet knowing everything. Now turn from what is hidden toward what is gathered, because Andromeda is above all a vast collection of light. If you could somehow stand at its edge and look inward, you would see stars beyond any counting, layered and scattered and shining in every direction. It would be like standing at the shore of an ocean made entirely of suns. Andromeda is estimated to hold roughly 1 trillion stars, considerably more than our own Milky Way is thought to contain. 1 trillion, each one a sun many, with their own quiet worlds turning around them in the dark. The number is too large to truly feel, and perhaps that is the point. Some things are not meant to be grasped, only rested beside the way you might rest beside a wide and sleeping sea. And yet for all its distance, Andromeda is not entirely out of reach. On a dark night far from the glow of cities, you can find it yourself without any telescope at all. It waits there as a faint, soft smudge of light, easy to miss and easy to love, once you know where it sits. People have stood in fields and on rooftops and simply looked, and there it was, the same light, falling into their eyes as it falls into yours. Andromeda is one of the most distant objects visible to the unaided human eye. You do not need anything special to see it, only darkness and patience and the willingness to look. There is something kind in that, in a thing so impossibly far choosing in its way to be seen. For all that distance, the gap between us is not fixed. It is slowly, quietly closing. While everything down here moves and rushes and hurries to be somewhere else, Andromeda is drifting toward us with an enormous and unbothered calm. It is not falling. It is approaching the way a tide comes, in the way evening comes on, without effort and without alarm. Andromeda is moving toward the Milky Way at roughly 110 kilometers every second, steadily narrowing the immense distance between us. That speed sounds tremendous, And it is yet, across such a vast emptiness, it amounts to the gentlest of approaches. Even as you lie here breathing slow, the two galaxies are leaning toward one another in the dark. There is no collision tonight, only the long, soft drawing together of things that were always going to meet. At the very center of all that drifting light there is a deep and silent stillness, a place where even light cannot escape. Andromeda, like most great galaxies, holds a black hole at its heart. Imagine the calm eye at the center of a slow storm, everything turning around a point that does not turn. That is the heart of Andromeda. Its central black hole is estimated to hold the mass of well over 100 million suns gathered into a region smaller than you might imagine. It does not roar or rage. It simply waits, anchoring the galaxy's slow rotation, holding the center, while the bright arms wheel around it, across the ages. There is a strange peace in that thought, that even at the heart of something so immense, there is a place of perfect gathered quiet. Come back for just a moment to that faint smudge you might find on a clear night. It is worth knowing what you are really seeing when you find it. That small, pale patch of light is not a single star, not a cloud, not anything nearby. It is a separate island of 1 trillion suns, and your eye is reaching across an almost unthinkable gulf to touch it. That dim glow is the farthest object most human eyes can perceive without help, the deepest reach of unaided sight. When you look at it, you are looking as far as a person can simply look, and the light that completes that journey ends its long crossing inside you against the back of your own eye. You are the shore it has been traveling toward all this time. There is something quietly remarkable in that, in being the place where so old a light finally comes to rest. The light from Andromeda is not the only thing crossing that great distance. The galaxy itself is vast beyond easy imagining, so wide that light, the fastest thing there is, needs an unhurried age, simply to travel from one edge of it to the other. Picture a single beam setting out from one rim of the galaxy, sweeping across all those stars, all that drifting gas on its way to the far side. It would still be traveling long after you and everyone you have ever known had lived a whole life. Andromeda is around 200,000 light-years across, which means light crossing its full width takes longer than our species has existed on Earth. The galaxy is wider in time than all of human history, and it holds that width, quietly asking nothing, simply being as large as it is. There is a softness in standing beside something so vast, and feeling not small in a frightening way, but small in the way a child feels safe in a very large and very quiet house. That slow approach we spoke of has a destination, though it lies almost unimaginably far ahead. One distant day, Andromeda and the Milky Way will not merely pass near one another, they will join. The two great spirals will draw together, turn around each other, and slowly become a single galaxy, neither one quite what it was before. Imagine two clouds meeting in a still sky, losing their old shapes, becoming one wider cloud, without any sound at all. Astronomers expect Andromeda and the Milky Way to merge into a single galaxy roughly 4 to 5 billion years from now. It is a meeting so far away in time that no living thing today will witness it. And yet it is already underway, already certain, already drifting toward its quiet conclusion. Some endings, it turns out, are also beginnings, and they arrive without a single moment of alarm. It is natural to imagine such a merging as a kind of catastrophe, two galaxies crashing in a storm of fire. But the truth is gentler than that, and stranger. When the galaxies come together, almost nothing inside them will actually strike anything else. The stars are simply too far apart. Picture two vast swarms of fireflies drifting through each other across a summer field, each light passing the others with room to spare, never touching. That is closer to the truth of it. When Andromeda and the Milky Way merge, the immense distances between stars mean direct collisions between them will be extraordinarily rare, very likely harming almost nothing. The galaxies will pass through one another, rearrange and settle, while the stars themselves drift on, untouched and unbroken. Even the greatest meeting we know of turns out to be mostly empty space and patience. There is a deep reassurance in that, in learning that even cosmic collisions are in their way mostly gentle. Long before anyone understood any of this, people were already noticing Andromeda, recording it as best they could. More than 1,000 years ago, watchers of the sky set down descriptions of a small soft cloud, where no cloud should be a faint patch that did not move or fade like ordinary weather. They had no idea what they were seeing. They only knew it was there and that it was worth noting. A Persian astronomer described Andromeda as a little cloud in his Book of the Stars, over 1,000 years ago, one of the earliest known records of the galaxy. He could not have known he was looking at 1 trillion suns. He only knew it was faint and steady and somehow worth remembering. And so it was passed down, this small note about a small cloud, until we learned what it truly was. There is a quiet kinship in that, in knowing that people long gone looked up at the very same light you can find tonight. The stars within Andromeda are not still, though they may seem so. The whole great disk of the galaxy is turning, wheeling slowly around its center, in a rotation so vast and so unhurried that no single human lifetime could ever notice it. Imagine the hour hand of a clock, but slowed almost beyond comprehension, sweeping through an arc that takes ages to complete. That is how Andromeda turns. The outer parts of its disk take something on the order of hundreds of millions of years to complete a single rotation around the galactic center. One full turn, and entire chapters of life on Earth would come and go. The galaxy does not rush this. It has all the time there is, and it spends it slowly, turning and turning in the dark, with no destination but the next slow degree. There is something settling in that pace, in remembering that the largest things move the most gently of all. Within that turning disk, some of the stars are very old indeed, older than nearly anything in our own galaxy. They formed in the early ages of the universe, when everything was younger and closer and still finding its shape, and they have been shining quietly ever since. Picture the oldest tree in a vast forest, the one that was already tall when all the others were seeds. Some stars in Andromeda are like that, ancient even by the standards of the stars. Certain stars in Andromeda are believed to be more than 10 billion years old, ranking among the oldest stars known. They have outlasted the rise and fall of countless younger suns, simply burning low and steady through the long dark. To rest beneath such ancient light is to be held briefly, inside a patience far older than the world. And there is comfort there in knowing some things endure quietly for almost as long as time itself. For all our certainty that the great merger is coming, the exact moment it begins remains beyond our reach. We can measure the approach, trace the motion, run the long calculations forward, and still the precise timing slips a little depending on details we are only beginning to understand. The sideways drift of Andromeda, the pull of unseen matter, all of it shifts the answer. Scientists still aren't certain exactly when the merger will begin, with estimates ranging across billions of years as new measurements refine the picture. It is not a failure of knowing. It is simply the honest edge of a very hard question, asked about a meeting so distant that even small uncertainties stretch across eons. There is a kind of peace in that too, in a future so far away that no one needs to know its exact hour. Some things can simply be left to arrive in their own time. Step back now on a clear and moonless night and consider how much sky Andromeda actually fills, if only your eyes could gather all its faint light at once. You might expect such a distant thing to be a mere pinprick, a single faint dot, but it is not. Spread across the dark, its full extent is far wider than you would guess, wider than the brightest thing in our own night sky. If you could see all of Andromeda's faint outer glow with the naked eye, it would stretch across the sky considerably wider than the full moon, several times its width. The reason we see only a small bright smudge is that our eyes catch only its brilliant center. The rest is there, vast and dim, washing silently across the dark. And on a night like this, when you are still and the world is quiet, it is a gentle thing to imagine all that hidden width spread softly overhead, watching over the sleep of a world that mostly never looks up. For a long stretch of history, no one understood what Andromeda truly was. Even after telescopes revealed it as more than a bare smudge, people assumed it was something small and near a glowing cloud of gas drifting somewhere inside our own galaxy. The idea that it might be a separate galaxy, an island universe of its own, seemed almost too large to believe. So they kept it close in their imaginations, a little local mist. For much of history, Andromeda was thought to be a luminous cloud within the Milky Way, not a distant galaxy in its own right. It took a long time and better instruments and a willingness to let the universe be bigger than expected before the truth came clear. There is something tender in that mistake, in how we kept the heavens small and familiar until we were ready to let them open. We come to vastness slowly, and that is all right. That brilliant center we so easily see is only the beginning of Andromeda. Far beyond the bright disk, the galaxy continues outward in a faint and enormous halo, a thin scattering of stars and gas reaching into the dark long after the obvious glow has faded. Imagine a candle flame, and then the wide, dim warmth that surrounds it, far larger than the flame itself. Andromeda's halo is like that. Vast and quiet and easy to overlook. The galaxy's outer halo of gas is now thought to extend outward an enormous distance far beyond its visible disk, perhaps reaching much of the way toward our own galaxy. The thing we see is only the heart of something far larger, and much of what surrounds us, it turns out, is like this, more present and more reaching than it first appears. There is room in that thought to feel gently held by things we cannot quite see. Look closely at the light Andromeda sends, and you would find it leans toward the warm end of color, the deep glow of stars grown old. Most of the galaxy's light comes not from young blue suns, but from countless aging stars burning low and red, the way embers glow long after the bright flames have gone. Picture a hearth late in the evening, the room lit softly orange, everything gentled by that warmer light. Much of Andromeda's overall glow comes from its vast population of older, cooler, reddish stars, giving the galaxy a warm cast. It is, in a sense, a galaxy settling into its evening, its light grown kind and low. And there is comfort in that warmth, in resting beneath the glow of something that has burned a long time and burns on quietly still, in no danger of going out tonight. Andromeda did not grow to its great size alone or untouched. Across the long ages, it very likely drew in smaller galaxies that wandered too close, gathering them gently into itself, their stars becoming part of its own. Imagine a wide river taking in smaller streams, each one disappearing into the larger flow, adding its water without a sound. Astronomers believe Andromeda has grown over time by absorbing smaller galaxies that drifted near it, a process called galactic merging. The stars of those vanished companions still move within Andromeda today, woven into its halo and its arms. Nothing was lost exactly. It was taken in and kept. There is a quiet kindness in that image, in the way the universe so often makes one larger, gentler whole out of the things that come together. Because Andromeda is so vast, the light from its near edge and its far edge does not reach us from the same moment in time. The far side is thousands of light years more distant than the near side, so its glow set out thousands of years earlier. When you look at the whole galaxy at once, you are seeing different parts of it as they were at slightly different times. Picture a single photograph that somehow captured a forest, each tree shown at a slightly different hour of the same long day. Light from the far edge of Andromeda left tens of thousands of years before the light from the near edge, so the image we see spans a range of moments. The galaxy you see is not one instant, but many gathered softly into a single view. And there is wonder in that, in knowing that even a single glance can hold more than one moment of time, all at peace together. Andromeda has long had a name and a place in our sky, set within a pattern the ancients drew among the stars. It rests in the constellation that carries the same old name, a figure from a story far older than any telescope. People looked up, connected, the faint points of light told a tale, and the galaxy came to live inside that tale, tucked among its stars. The Andromeda Galaxy lies within the constellation Andromeda, from which it takes its name, a constellation recognized since antiquity. So when you find it, you are finding it in a place that has held human stories for thousands of years. The science is new, but the looking is ancient. And there is belonging in that, in knowing that whenever you turn toward Andromeda, you are joining a long, unbroken line of people who turned that same way before you, and felt perhaps a little less alone. Among the galaxies that travel near us, our small cluster of cosmic neighbors, Andromeda is the largest of them all. We sometimes imagine the Milky Way as the center of things, but in truth, Andromeda outweighs and outshines it, the grandest member of our little local family of galaxies. Picture a small village of houses, and one among them larger and older than the rest. The one the others seem to gather around. Andromeda is the most massive galaxy in the local group, the small collection of galaxies that includes the Milky Way and dozens of smaller ones. It anchors the neighborhood in a sense, holding its gravitational sway over the quiet space we share. There is something steadying in having such a neighbor, vast and calm and close in cosmic terms. Drifting through the same dark, we drift through part of the same small gathering of light. The space between Andromeda and the Milky Way is not entirely empty. The two galaxies are already wrapped together in a single vast envelope of thin gas, their outer halos so extended that they have very likely begun to touch and overlap long before the galaxies themselves draw near. Imagine two people standing apart in a quiet room, and yet sharing the same warm air, the same soft light, already in contact in ways too gentle to see. Recent observations suggest the gaseous halos of Andromeda and the Milky Way may already be touching or even overlapping across the space between them. So in a sense, the meeting has already begun, not with any drama, but with the quietest possible contact, gas meeting gas across the dark. We are nearer to Andromeda than the great distance suggests. And there is comfort in that, in knowing that the things we think of as far apart are often in their outermost reaches, already gently touching. Within Andromeda's slowly turning arms, there are places where new stars are still being born, quiet cradles of gas and dust, where light is just beginning. Among all those ancient reddening suns, there are also fresh ones, newly kindled, taking their first turns around the galactic center. Imagine a very old forest where, here and there among the great elder trees, small green shoots are still pushing up toward the light. Andromeda's spiral arms contain regions of gas and dust, where new stars continue to form, glowing softly as they take shape. The galaxy is old, yet it is not finished. It is still making light, still bringing new suns into being, even now. There is something hopeful in that, in knowing that even the most ancient things can still be quietly beginning again somewhere within themselves, while the rest of them rests. The coming together of Andromeda and the Milky Way will not happen in a moment the way two things might collide on Earth. It will unfold across an almost unimaginable stretch of time, so slow that on any single night, nothing would seem to change at all. Picture a flower opening, but slowed until each tiny movement took an age. The bloom spreading so gradually that no one watching could ever catch it moving. The merger of the two galaxies will play out over a span of billions of years, far too slow to perceive within any human span of nights. There will never be a single evening when the sky suddenly transforms. Only the long, patient drawing together, gentle on every individual night that ever passes. And even as you rest right now, that meeting is creeping infinitesimally closer, too slow to feel, too far to fear. There is deep peace in a change that gentle. Among all the galaxies in the wider universe, most are racing away from us, carried outward as space itself stretches. But Andromeda is different. Its light, when carefully measured, shows the faint signature not of retreat, but of approach, a slight shift toward the blue end of the spectrum, the mark of something coming nearer. Imagine the sound of distant footsteps, and the small change in them that tells you someone is walking toward you rather than away. Andromeda's light is blue shifted, indicating that it is moving toward us, unlike most galaxies, whose light is red shifted as they recede. In a universe largely spreading apart, Andromeda is leaning in. Of all the great galaxies, this one is choosing closeness. There is a quiet warmth in that, in being approached however slowly by something so vast, across so much dark. The stars that make up Andromeda did not all form within it. Some of them were born in other smaller galaxies, long ago galaxies that have since been drawn in and undone, their stars scattered into Andromeda's body, where they drift to this day. When you look at the galaxy, you are seeing the gathered children of many vanished homes, now all part of one. Picture a great house filled with people from many places, each carrying a little of where they came from, all of them now under one roof. Many of Andromeda's stars likely formed in smaller galaxies that were later absorbed, so they were born in places that no longer exist. Their original homes are gone, yet the stars themselves shine unkept and held. Nothing truly bright is ever entirely lost. It is simply taken in and carried forward and given a new place to belong. We are so certain of the eventual merger that the future galaxy already has a name among astronomers, a tentative word for a thing that will not exist for billions of years. People have looked so far ahead with such quiet confidence that they gave a name to the result of two galaxies that have not yet touched. Imagine choosing a name for a great-great-grandchild who will not be born for ages, simply because you are sure somehow that they are coming. Astronomers have informally named the future merged galaxy Milkomeda, blending the names Milky Way and Andromeda in anticipation of their eventual union. It is a small, almost affectionate gesture across an enormous gulf of time, a name held ready for a meeting no one will see. There is something gentle in that kind of certainty, in trusting the slow course of things enough to greet them in advance. Of all the major galaxies astronomers have studied, Andromeda holds a rare distinction, for it is among the very few that are drawing closer rather than drifting away. Across the vast expanse of the universe, nearly everything is receding, the great galaxies all sailing outward into deeper dark. Andromeda is one of the exceptions. Picture a wide harbor at evening, every ship slipping out toward the open sea, and one alone turning quietly back toward shore. Andromeda is one of the few large galaxies known to be approaching the Milky Way rather than receding from it. In a cosmos defined by separation, it is a presence moving toward us, steady and unhurried. And it has been doing so for longer than the mind can hold. There is a kind of companionship in that thought, in knowing that not everything drifts apart, that some great things given time come home. The faint light of Andromeda has been falling on the Earth for far longer than anyone has been here to notice it. Long before the first eye opened, long before there was any creature to look up, the galaxy was already shining down on the seas and the stones of a younger world, its light arriving faithfully night after night into a darkness no one watched. Imagine a lamp left burning in a window of an empty house. For ages its glow steady and patient, waiting for someone, anyone to come home and see it. Andromeda's light has been reaching the Earth for billions of years, long before any living thing existed to perceive it. It did not wait for us. It simply shone and went on shining, until at last there was someone here to lift their face toward it. There is a deep tenderness in that, in being welcomed by a light that was glowing for you long before you came. At the very heart of Andromeda, the light is gathered most densely, where countless ancient stars are packed close together in the galaxy's glowing core. It is the brightest region of all, not because the stars there are larger, but because there are so very many of them crowded into a small space, their combined light pooling into a soft and steady radiance. Imagine a city seen from a great distance at night, the center glowing brightest, simply because that is where the most lamps are lit. Andromeda's central region glows brilliantly because of the dense concentration of old stars gathered tightly around its core. It is the warm hearth of the galaxy, the place where all that ancient light comes together. And even as you lie here, slowing into rest, that core is glowing exactly as it always has, patient and bright and entirely undisturbed by the passing of any single night, including this one. We never quite see Andromeda straight on. From where the Earth happens to sit, the galaxy is turned at an angle, tilted so that its great flat disk appears to us as a long, slender oval, rather than a perfect circle of light. We are catching it from the side more than from above. Imagine a wide plate held not flat before your eyes, but tipped away so its round shape narrows into an ellipse. That is how Andromeda presents itself to us. Andromeda is seen from Earth at a steep angle, tilted close to edge on, so its disk appears as an elongated shape rather than a full circle. We will never see its spiral laid out flat and complete. We only ever see it leaning half-turned away, keeping something of itself to itself. And there is an intimacy in that, in glimpsing something vast at an angle, the way you might catch the profile of someone resting near you in the dark. Most of what holds Andromeda together is something we cannot see at all. Beyond all its visible stars and glowing gas, the galaxy is thought to contain a far greater quantity of dark matter, an unseen substance that makes itself known only through its gravity. The bright parts we admire may be only a small fraction of the whole. Imagine an iceberg, the gleaming peak above the water, dwarfed by the vast hidden mass beneath. Andromeda is believed to contain far more dark matter than ordinary visible matter, with the unseen component making up most of its total mass. The galaxy we see is the smaller part of the galaxy that truly is. So much of it lies beyond sight, holding everything in place, asking nothing, revealed only by its quiet pull. There is something reassuring in that, in knowing that the things which hold us steady are often the very things we cannot see. Around Andromeda, a scattering of smaller galaxies moves in slow looping orbits, faithful companions tracing wide and patient paths through the dark. They circle their great neighbor the way moons might circle a world, bound to it by gravity, drifting along their long curved roads across spans of time too great to follow. Imagine small boats moored in the gravity of a vast harbor, swinging gently on their long tethers, never straying far. Andromeda is orbited by a number of smaller satellite galaxies that follow long looping paths around it under its gravitational pull. They have kept this slow dance for ages, circling and returning, in no hurry to arrive. And the galaxy holds them gently as a larger thing so often holds the smaller ones near it. There is a quiet belonging in that picture of small things kept close and carried along, never alone in all that dark. The very stuff of Andromeda is the same stuff that you are made of, down to the iron carried quietly in your blood. The atoms that form the stars, the gas, the dust of that distant galaxy were forged in the hearts of stars and scattered outward, and the same kinds of atoms born the same way ended up here, inside living bodies on a small blue world. Imagine a single recipe followed in two kitchens, unthinkably far apart, producing somehow the same warm bread. The iron in your blood and the elements in Andromeda were both created inside stars, formed by the same physical processes across the universe. You are not separate from that distant light. You are made of its kind. And even as you rest right now, the iron moving quietly through you carries the signature of stars, not so different from the trillion that fill Andromeda. There is no closer kinship than that. Across all that emptiness, Andromeda's light reaches us steady and unbroken, a faithful glow that does not flicker or fade across the long crossing. Through millions of years of travel, through all the dark between the galaxies, the light simply holds its course and arrives as constant as it set out. Imagine a single note held perfectly without a tremor, across a silence so long no one could measure it. Andromeda's light travels to us in a steady, continuous stream, unbroken across the vast distance it crosses. It does not waver. It does not tire. It only keeps coming, the same soft light, night after night, as dependable as anything in all the heavens. And there is comfort in that steadiness, in a light you could count on without ever asking, arriving faithfully whether anyone watches or sleeps. Some things simply keep their promises quietly across all the dark there is. Andromeda's slow approach will continue long after every person now alive has gone, carried forward across spans of time that dwarf the whole human story. The galaxy will keep drifting nearer, patient and unbothered, through ages in which everything we know will have changed beyond recognition. Imagine a tide coming in so slowly that whole lifetimes pass between one gentle wave and the next. The water rising on a shore that forgets and remembers and forgets again. Andromeda will go on approaching the Milky Way for billions of years, continuing its slow movement long after the present age of humanity has passed. It does not need us to witness it. It will simply keep on faithful to its long course, drawing nearer through a future too vast to picture. And there is a strange peace in that, in knowing that something so gentle and so certain will go on quietly long after this small night of ours has ended. The edge of Andromeda is not a line you could ever point to. The galaxy does not stop sharply, but fades its light, thinning so gradually that no one can say exactly where the galaxy ends and the empty dark begins. The stars grow sparser, the glow grows fainter, and somewhere in that slow dimming, the galaxy quietly gives way to space, without any boundary at all. Imagine fog at the edge of a field, thinning so softly that you could never mark the precise step where it became clear air. Andromeda's outer regions fade so gradually into the surrounding space that the galaxy has no sharp, definable edge. It simply trails off, gentle and unhurried, into the wider dark. There is something soothing in that softness, in a thing so vast that even its ending is a slow and quiet fading, like the way sleep comes, not at a single moment, but somewhere in a gradual letting go. Return for one more moment to the simple act of seeing it. When the light of Andromeda finally completes its long journey, it ends inside you, striking the back of your eye and becoming for an instant a part of you. After millions of years of travel across the dark, that ancient light meets its destination in the quiet curve of a single human eye. Imagine a traveler who has walked an unimaginable road, finally arriving and resting at last in a small, warm room. The photons of light from Andromeda end their journey on the retina at the back of your eye, where they are absorbed and seen. You are the place that light was traveling toward all along. Everyone who has ever found that faint smudge has been the shore of the same long crossing. And there is wonder in that, in being for a moment the gentle end of so old and so patient a journey. In that distant galaxy, three great motions are happening all at once, and all of them in perfect silence. Andromeda spins on its center, drifts through space toward us, and slowly ages with every passing moment. And not one of these motions makes a sound. The vastness of space carries no noise at all. So all that turning and traveling and quiet burning unfolds in a stillness deeper than anything we know. Imagine a great mill wheel turning a river, flowing, a fire settling into embers, all of it together and yet utterly without sound. Andromeda rotates, moves through space, and ages simultaneously, all in the soundless vacuum that separates the stars. Everything moves, and nothing is heard. There is something profoundly calming in that, in picturing such enormous activity wrapped in such complete and gentle quiet, the way a sleeping house can be full of breathing and still feel perfectly at peace. Andromeda is so old that it was already taking shape when the Earth itself was young, a newly formed world still warm and settling beneath the early heavens. While our planet was just beginning its surface cooling, its first oceans not yet gathered, Andromeda was already a galaxy, already turning, already filled with light. Imagine an elder who was fully grown before you drew your first breath, present and steady in the world long before your own story began. Andromeda was already forming and shining during the era when the Earth was a young, newly cooling planet billions of years ago. It was here, in a sense, before it watched the long ages of a quiet world before any of us arrived. And there is comfort in such an elder presence, in knowing that something so ancient was already glowing softly overhead, while our own small world was only beginning to find its shape. Some of the galaxies that orbit Andromeda are so faint and so small that they hold barely more light than a modest scattering of stars, dim companions that are easy to overlook entirely. These little galaxies drift along beside their great neighbor, made of so few stars that they shine only weakly, almost shyly, into the dark. Imagine a handful of fireflies gathered at the edge of a vast lit field, easy to miss against all that brighter glow. Some of Andromeda's satellite galaxies are so faint they contain only a relatively small number of stars, shining barely brighter than a single bright star would. They are galaxies still true and whole, just very quiet ones, and there is a tenderness in noticing them. The smallest members of the family drifting faithfully along, holding their own modest light. Even the faintest things have their place and are kept and belong. Andromeda's gravity does not stop at the edge of its light. It reaches softly outward across the immense space between us, a gentle and invisible pull that extends far beyond anything we can see, touching even the space our own galaxy occupies. Gravity has no limit to its reach. It only grows fainter with distance, never quite vanishing. Imagine the warmth of a fire felt faintly from across a wide, cold room, present even where the light seems not to fall. Andromeda's gravitational influence extends across the space between the galaxies, reaching faintly even toward the Milky Way. So in a sense, that distant galaxy is touching us already, with the lightest possible touch drawing us slowly together. We are not as separate as the dark between us suggests, and there is belonging in that, in being gently held, even now, by the reach of something so far away. Scattered through Andromeda are tight clusters of stars that have stayed bound together since the earliest days of the galaxy, ancient families of suns that formed together and have never drifted apart. These are globular clusters, dense round gatherings of old stars held close by their own gravity through all the long ages. Imagine a group of old friends who met in childhood and stayed together for an entire lifetime, never once parting. Andromeda contains many globular clusters, dense groupings of ancient stars that have remained gravitationally bound together since early in the galaxy's history. They have circled the galactic center side by side for billions of years, keeping their close company through everything. There is something deeply warming in that image in stars that found each other early and chose in their way to stay. Even in all that vastness, there are things that hold together and stay held for almost as long as time allows. For all that we have learned, we still do not know exactly how many smaller galaxies Andromeda has drawn into itself over the ages. The signs are their scattered streams of stars and unusual motions that hint at past meetings, but the full count remains uncertain, a question scientists are still patiently working to answer. Imagine trying to count how many streams have fed a great river by reading only the patterns left in its water. Astronomers still debate exactly how many smaller galaxies Andromeda has absorbed over its history, as the evidence is gradual and difficult to untangle. It is an honest uncertainty, an open question resting quietly at the edge of what we know, and there is no urgency in it, no need for the answer tonight. Some questions can simply be left to rest, kept gently in the mind the way you might hold a soft thought as you drift towards sleep. Andromeda appears at first glance to be utterly still, a fixed and frozen image hanging motionless in the dark. And yet within it, nothing is still at all. Every star is moving, the whole disk is turning, gas drifts and clusters swing along their orbits, all of it in constant, ceaseless motion. The stillness is only an illusion of distance. The way a far mountain seems unmoving, though rivers run down it and clouds pass over it always. Andromeda looks completely motionless from Earth, yet every star within it is constantly moving, and the entire galaxy is rotating. What seems frozen is in truth alive with quiet motion, too slow and too far to perceive. There is something gentle in that paradox, in a thing that looks so perfectly at rest while moving all the while. Perhaps the deepest calm is not the absence of motion, but motion grown so slow and so steady that it feels at last like stillness. When the spiral shape of Andromeda was first glimpsed through early telescopes, no one understood what they were seeing, and one early idea was that the swirl might be a solar system in the act of forming. The graceful spiral looked to some like a young sun, surrounded by a disk of matter slowly gathering into planets. They were looking at 1 trillion stars and imagining instead the birth of a single world. Imagine mistaking a vast ocean seen from very far away for a single drop of water catching the light. Andromeda's spiral form was once interpreted by some early observers as a solar system forming rather than a separate galaxy of stars. It was a small guess in the face of something enormous, an honest reaching toward understanding. And there is something endearing in that early era, in how the human mind faced with the unknown so often reaches first for the familiar. We make the vast small until we are ready to let it be vast. And that, too, is a kind of gentleness. Scattered through Andromeda's spiral arms are its brightest regions, and they are not its oldest places, but its newest glowing nurseries where stars are being born. These are vast clouds of gas, where fresh young suns ignite, lighting up the surrounding gas with their new fire, so that whole regions of the galaxy shine with the radiance of recent birth. Imagine a meadow in early spring, the brightest patches being exactly where the youngest, freshest growth has come up green. Andromeda's most luminous regions are stellar nurseries, clouds of gas, where new stars form and light up the surrounding material. The brightest light in that ancient galaxy comes from its youngest children. There is something quietly hopeful in that, in knowing that the places shining most brilliantly are the places where things are just beginning. Even in the oldest of homes, it is so often the newest life that glows the brightest. Andromeda and the Milky Way are not simply drifting toward each other in a straight line. The two galaxies move together around a shared center of mass, an invisible balance point that lies somewhere in the space between them, each one circling that common point as they approach. Imagine two dancers turning slowly around a spot on the floor that belongs to neither of them, held in a balance between the two. The Milky Way and Andromeda both move around a shared center of mass that lies in the space between the two galaxies. Neither one is fixed, and neither one orbits the other. They turn together around a point that is theirs alone. There is a quiet companionship in that image, in two great galaxies, bound not by one pulling the other, but by a shared and gentle balance, drifting and turning around something they hold equally between them. The elements that make up your bones are the very same elements found throughout Andromeda, forged by the same processes in the hearts of stars. The calcium that gives your skeleton its strength was made inside stars, long ago scattered into space and gathered into the matter that became you. Just as such elements were scattered and gathered throughout that distant galaxy. Imagine the same clay shaped into countless different vessels in countless far places, all of it the same earth at heart. The calcium in your bones and the elements throughout Andromeda were all forged inside stars through the same processes of stellar nucleosynthesis. You carry within your own body the same material that fills a galaxy you can barely see. And even as you rest right now, the bones that hold you, that cradle you against whatever you are resting on, are made of starlight's ancient ash. You are not looking at the universe from outside. You are a small, warm piece of it looking back, far out at the edges of Andromeda, Beyond the bright glow of its disk, faint stars wander at enormous distances from the galaxy's heart, drifting through the dim outer reaches in lonely looping paths. These are the galaxy's most distant stars, so far from the center that they take vast stretches of time to complete a single orbit, traveling quietly through the faint outskirts. Imagine the few houses set far out beyond the edge of a town, their lights small and scattered across the dark countryside. Andromeda's outermost stars orbit at great distances from its center, far beyond the bright main disk in the galaxy's faint outer halo. They belong to the galaxy, still bound to it by gravity, even out there in the quiet dark. There is something tender in that, in the far wanderers held by the same gentle pull as everything closer in. Even the most distant things are not let go. They are kept softly at the long edge of belonging. The Andromeda you see tonight is not the Andromeda that exists now, but a portrait of the galaxy as it was when its light first set out millions of years in the past. You are looking, in a sense, at an old photograph, an image of a younger galaxy, for the light carrying that image has been traveling so long that the galaxy itself has changed since. Imagine receiving a letter written so long ago that the hand which wrote it has lived an entire further life in the meantime. The light from Andromeda left around 2.5 million years ago, so what we see is the galaxy as it appeared then, not as it is today. The real Andromeda has moved on, aged on, while its old light still arrives. There is a soft melancholy in that, and a comfort too, in knowing that to look at the stars is always gently to look into the past and to be welcomed there. By the time Andromeda's slow approach finally brings it close, no eyes that exist today will be there to see it, and it will look like nothing we could now recognize. The galaxy that arrives will not be the smudge we know, and the sky it fills will belong to a world unimaginably far ahead, watched, if at all, by beings we cannot picture. Imagine a garden that will bloom most beautifully on a morning none of its planters will ever wake to see. Andromeda will appear completely different when it eventually draws near the Milky Way, billions of years from now, long after the present world has passed. The view we have now is ours alone, this faint and quiet smudge, this particular distance. There is a gentle gift in that, in being among the ones who get to see it just like this tonight, as it will never quite be seen again. Andromeda drifts through a vast sea of dark matter, the unseen substance that fills the space between and around the galaxies, invisible to every eye and every telescope, known only by its pull. The galaxy moves not through empty void, but through this hidden ocean, surrounded and threaded by something we cannot detect directly, something that shapes its motion all the same. Imagine a ship sailing through deep water on a moonless night, the sea all around it, real and present, though entirely unseen. Andromeda is embedded within a vast distribution of dark matter that pervades the space in and around galaxies, detectable only through its gravitational effects. So much of the universe is like this, present and powerful and quietly invisible. And there is a strange peace in that, in resting within a cosmos so full of things we cannot see, held by forces we will never glimpse, and gently carried by them all the same. Within Andromeda there are long, faint streams of stars trailing, ribbons of light torn gently from smaller galaxies it met and absorbed in ages past. When a little galaxy drifts too close, Andromeda's gravity slowly pulls it apart, stretching its stars into a delicate stream that wraps around the larger galaxy, a soft trace of a meeting long ago. Imagine the wake left behind a boat on still water, lingering for a while, as a gentle line before it fades. Andromeda contains stellar streams, trails of stars pulled from smaller galaxies that it gradually absorbed, stretched out by its gravity over time. These quiet ribbons are the memory of old companions woven now into the larger whole. Nothing of those small galaxies was lost, only rearranged, only carried onward in a gentler shape. There is something deeply soothing in that, in how the universe so often takes what comes apart and weaves it softly into something larger that endures. Andromeda holds a curious double truth. It is at once unimaginably far away, and the nearest great galaxy we have, the closest of all the large spirals to our own. Across distances the mind can scarcely hold, it is still our nearest neighbor of its kind, the galaxy that sits closest to us, in all the vast dark. Imagine the nearest house in a settlement, so spread out that even the closest neighbor lives a long day's journey away, and yet is still truly the nearest. Andromeda is the closest large spiral galaxy to the Milky Way, even though it lies an enormous distance away, far beyond reaching, and yet nearer than any of its great companions. There is comfort in that nearness, distant as it is. In all the immensity of the universe, we are not entirely without close company. We have a neighbor, vast and quiet, drifting in the dark, not so very far from our own door. The light from Andromeda has traveled across far more emptiness than fullness, to reach you, crossing vast stretches of nearly perfect void, where there is almost nothing at all. Between the galaxies lies an immense darkness, thinly scattered, with the faintest traces of matter, and Andromeda's light spent nearly its entire journey passing through that great emptiness. Imagine a single traveler crossing an enormous desert, walking for ages through open sand, with only the rarest small oasis along the way. Andromeda's light crosses vast stretches of nearly empty intergalactic space to reach us, traveling through far more void than matter. Most of its long journey was through nothing at all, and still it came faithfully all that way. There is something quietly moving in that, in a light that crossed so much emptiness and arrived undimmed, as if the void itself could not keep it from reaching the eye that waited. Deep within Andromeda's glowing heart, there may be secrets its outer light never reveals to us, processes and structures hidden behind the brilliance of the core. The dense crowding of stars and the black hole at the center create a region we cannot fully see into from so far away, where things may be happening that the galaxy's outer glow gives no hint of. Imagine a great house seen from far off at night, its lit windows telling you nothing of the quiet rooms deep inside. The crowded central region of Andromeda may hold structures and activity that are difficult to observe from Earth, hidden behind its bright core. There is much in that heart we have not yet learned to read, and there is a gentle mystery in that, in knowing that even something so studied keeps a few things to itself, quiet and unrevealed, waiting in its own deep center. Andromeda turns so slowly that a single full rotation outlasts the rise and fall of entire species on Earth. The galaxy takes so long to complete just one turn that during that single rotation whole kinds of creatures could appear, flourish and vanish on our small world below. Imagine a clock so vast and so slow that between one tick and the next, generations beyond counting would live their entire lives. The outer regions of Andromeda take hundreds of millions of years to complete a single rotation, longer than many species have existed on Earth. One turn of that great wheel, and the whole story of some living thing on Earth could begin and end. There is a humbling peace in that pace, in measuring our briefest, fullest lives against a single slow turning. We are small against such time, and there is rest in that smallness, the way a child rests held by something far larger and far older than itself. Andromeda was already here, already shining, long before the very first ocean ever settled onto the surface of the Earth. While our young planet was still without seas, still gathering itself, that distant galaxy was already old, already turning quietly in the dark. The oceans that would one day cradle the first life had not yet formed when Andromeda was already a galaxy of countless stars. Imagine an elder so ancient that they were already grey before the river near your home first began to flow. Andromeda existed and shone for billions of years before Earth's first oceans formed, making it far older than the seas of our world. It watched the long ages before the waters came, and there is comfort in such depth of time, in resting beneath a light that was patient and steady long before the first wave ever broke on any shore, and will go on long after the last one quietly recedes. Between the stars of Andromeda drift great clouds of gas, cold and quiet, the slow material from which new stars will one day form. These vast clouds float in the spaces between the suns, dark and still and very cold, holding within them the makings of future light, waiting in no hurry across the long ages. Imagine banks of fog settling over a valley in the deep cold before dawn, motionless and silent, holding the promise of the day to come. Andromeda contains cold clouds of gas drifting between its stars, the raw material from which future stars will eventually form. They are the galaxy's quiet reserves, its sleeping potential resting cold and patient in the dark. There is something deeply restful in that image, in great clouds drifting slow and silent between the stars, holding tomorrow's light gently within them, waiting without any urgency at all for their own slow time to come. The very same gravity that holds you gently to your bed tonight is the same force that holds all of Andromeda together. The pull that keeps you resting where you are, that settles you against the mattress and lets your body grow heavy and still, is the same law working across that whole distant galaxy, binding its trillion stars. There is only one gravity and it reaches everywhere. Imagine a single thread woven through everything, holding the small and the vast alike with the same quiet patience. The same fundamental force of gravity that holds you to the Earth is what binds Andromeda's stars together across the galaxy. The force keeping you safe and grounded right now is the force shaping a galaxy 2.5 million years away. And there is a deep belonging in that, in being held by the very same gentle law that holds the stars, part of the same quiet order resting tonight inside it. The stars of Andromeda were formed from the ashes of older stars that lived and died before them, built from the scattered remains of earlier suns. When a star ends its long life, it returns its material to space, and from those gathered ashes, new stars are born, so that every star carries within it the substance of those that came before. Imagine a fire built on the cooled embers of last night's fire, the new flames rising from the old warmth. Many of Andromeda's stars formed from the gas and dust released by earlier generations of stars that had already lived and died. Nothing is wasted in that long cycle. The old becomes the new again and again, light passed gently down through the ages. And there is something deeply comforting in that, in a universe that so often gathers its endings and makes of them quietly another beginning. One distant day, Andromeda will fill the night sky of a world that does not yet exist, growing wider and brighter as it slowly draws near across the ages. As the two galaxies approach, Andromeda will loom ever larger overhead until eventually it spreads across the sky of whatever worlds happen to be turning, then a vast presence above lands and seas not yet formed. Imagine a moon rising slowly larger over a country still waiting in the deep future to be born. Over the coming billions of years, Andromeda will appear larger and larger in the sky as it approaches, eventually dominating the night sky of the future. The faint smudge we see will one day be an immense glowing spiral overhead, watched by eyes we cannot imagine. There is wonder in that long unfolding, in knowing that what is faint to us now will one day be the gentle glowing centerpiece of someone else's quiet night. Andromeda's spiral arms wind outward from its center like something slowly unfurling, great curving sweeps of stars and gas that spiral gracefully through the disk. These arms are not solid structures but patterns of brighter regions, places where stars gather and form, tracing long, elegant curves that wrap around the galactic heart. Imagine the slow opening of a fern in spring, its fronds uncurling in a gentle spiral, or the soft turning of cream stirred slowly into coffee. Andromeda's spiral arms are curving regions of stars and gas that wind outward from the galaxy's center in a graceful pattern. They are the galaxy's most beautiful feature, these long, unfurling curves of light. And there is something soothing in that shape, in the way the spiral appears again and again in nature, from the smallest shell to the greatest galaxy, as if the universe returns gently to the same quiet form. Andromeda keeps no memory of its own past, and yet it carries its entire history within the light it sends, written into the colors and motions of its stars. The galaxy cannot remember anything, of course, and yet everything that has happened to it, every merger, every generation of stars leaves its trace in the light we receive. A record we are slowly learning to read. Imagine a tree that knows nothing of the years and yet holds every season it has lived inside the quiet rings of its trunk. Andromeda's light carries information about its history, recorded in the composition and movement of its stars, even though the galaxy itself holds no memory. Its whole long story is there, waiting in the light for anyone patient enough to read it. There is something tender in that, in how the past is never truly lost, only carried forward, quietly, written, gently, into the present for those who care to look. Andromeda was named by people who could only ever see it as a faint, soft mist, long before anyone knew it was a galaxy at all. The name came from watchers who glimpsed only a dim patch of light and placed it within the figure of an ancient story, never knowing they were naming a thing of 1,000,000,000,000 stars. They named the mist, and the name stayed even after we learned how vast the mist truly was. Imagine giving a name to a distant light on a hill only to discover ages later that you had named an entire city. Andromeda was named long before its true nature was known, when it appeared only as a faint cloud to early observers. The name is older than our understanding of the thing it names, and there is something endearing in that, in how we so often name what we love before we fully understand it, and how the name once given holds fast across all that later knowing. Andromeda will merge with our galaxy so gently that to anyone living through it, the night sky would never seem to suddenly change. The coming together will be so slow, unfolding across such vast stretches of time, that no single generation could ever notice the sky transforming. No one would wake one morning to a different heavens. Imagine a shoreline reshaped by the sea so gradually that no one walking it ever sees it move, though across ages it becomes something new. The merger of Andromeda and the Milky Way will unfold so slowly that no sudden change would be visible across any single lifetime. The greatest event in our galaxy's future will arrive without alarm, without a single startling night. And there is profound peace in that, in knowing that even the merging of galaxies happens softly enough that were you there, you could sleep through every quiet night of it undisturbed. Within Andromeda there are places where no star has ever shone, vast dark regions between the spiral arms, where the gas is too thin and too still for any sun to form. Not all of the galaxy is filled with light. Between the bright arms lie wide, quiet voids, dark stretches that have remained empty across the whole long life of the galaxy. Imagine the deep, untouched spaces between the lit paths of a great park at night, places the lamplight never reaches. Andromeda contains regions between its spiral arms, where few or no stars have formed, leaving them dark and quiet. The galaxy holds its darkness as naturally as it holds its light. And there is a gentle reassurance in that, in knowing that even the brightest things have their quiet, unlit places, and that darkness is not absence or lack, but simply another part of the whole, resting easy alongside the light. Andromeda has been studied carefully for centuries, and still it keeps a great many of its quiet mysteries, questions we have not yet answered, despite all our long looking. For hundreds of years, people have turned telescopes toward it, measured it, mapped it, and yet much about the galaxy remains uncertain, still waiting to be understood. Imagine a book you have read many times, only to find, on each return, some passage you had never quite noticed before. Despite centuries of observation, many aspects of Andromeda remain uncertain, and astronomers continue to study it to this day. It has not given up all its secrets even now. And there is something comforting in that, in knowing that the universe still holds mysteries gentle enough to rest in questions that need no answer tonight. Things we may simply wonder about softly as we drift towards sleep, content not to know. The faintest stars within Andromeda may never have been counted at all, lost in the galaxy's overall glow, too dim and too distant to single out from so far away. Among its trillion stars are countless faint ones whose individual light blends into the broader radiance stars that contribute to the whole but can never be picked out one by one. Imagine the individual blades of grass in a vast meadow seen from a hilltop, present in their multitudes, yet impossible to number. The faintest individual stars in Andromeda cannot be distinguished from Earth, blending together into the galaxy's general glow. They are there, every one of them shining, even if no one will ever count them. And there is a quiet tenderness in that thought. In all those uncounted lights, each one real, each one shining its small share into the night, asking nothing, simply being part of the gentle whole. Andromeda drifts in a silence deeper than any silence the Earth has ever known. There is no quiet here like the quiet between the galaxies, no stillness on our world that comes close to the soundless dark in which Andromeda turns. Even the most silent night on Earth carries some faint breath of sound, but in the space the galaxy moves through, there is nothing at all to carry sound. Only an absolute and gentle hush. Imagine the deepest quiet you have ever felt, late at night, with everyone asleep. And then imagine a silence beyond even that, vaster and softer still. Space is a near-perfect vacuum, so Andromeda drifts in a silence far deeper than any that exists on Earth, where sound cannot travel at all. It is the quietest place imaginable, and there is something deeply restful in that, in picturing a galaxy turning forever in a silence so complete that it makes our quietest nights feel almost loud. Andromeda's gravity is strong enough to bend the very light that passes near it, gently curving the path of distant light as it travels by. The galaxy's great mass warps the space around it, and any light passing close enough follows that curve, its path bent softly by Andromeda's presence. This is gravity shaping not just matter, but light itself, steering it along gentle arcs through curved space. Imagine a heavy stone resting on a stretched cloth, and a marble rolling past, curving toward the dip, without ever touching the stone. Andromeda's mass bends the path of light passing near it, an effect known as gravitational lensing, predicted by Einstein's theory of relativity. The galaxy reshapes even the light that merely passes by. And there is wonder in that, in knowing that something so vast can guide a beam of light with such a soft and certain hand, bending it gently on its way. One distant day, long after this night is forgotten, Andromeda will still be here, turning quietly in the dark. The galaxy will go on long after everything we know has passed, long after this evening, and everyone who lived it have faded entirely from the world. It does not depend on us, on our remembering, on our watching. It will simply continue as it always has, through ages beyond counting. Imagine a mountain that will stand unchanged through every generation that ever climbs it, present long after the last climber is gone. Andromeda will continue to exist for billions of years, enduring long after the present age, and everyone in it has passed. It will outlast this night by spans of time too great to hold, and there is a strange comfort in that, in knowing that something so calm and so steady will go on quietly, faithful to its slow turning long after we have all gone gently to sleep for the last time. The light from Andromeda entered your eyes the very moment you last looked up at it, completing a journey of millions of years in the instant of a single glance. All that long, traveling all those ages of crossing the dark, came to its quiet end exactly when you turned your face toward the sky and let the light in. Imagine a traveler arriving at a door at the precise moment it opens, the long road ending in a single gentle step inside. The light from Andromeda that enters your eyes completes its journey of millions of years in the instant you look at it. You are the destination all along, and the arrival happened in a heartbeat. And even as you rest right now, were you to rise and find that faint smudge in a dark sky, ancient light would end its long crossing inside you. In the quiet of this very moment, there is no closer meeting than that between so old a light and so present an eye. Andromeda keeps turning slow and steady through the long dark, never pausing, never hurrying, simply continuing its quiet rotation across the ages. The galaxy turns now, as it has always turned, at the same patient pace, indifferent to time, untroubled by the passing of the years. There is no rush in it, no weariness, only the endless gentle wheeling of a vast disk of stars through the silent dark. Imagine a great wheel turning so smoothly and so slowly that its motion feels less like movement and more like rest. Andromeda continues rotating steadily, as it has for billions of years, turning slowly and ceaselessly through space. It does not tire of turning. It simply goes on calm and constant through the long dark. And there is deep peace in that steadiness, in something that has kept the same gentle motion since before the Earth was made, and will keep it long after turning quietly while we sleep. Andromeda holds the same calm tonight that it held 1,000,000 years ago, unchanged in its essential stillness across all that time. The galaxy that the light shows us, the galaxy as it was so long ago, was already turning in just this quiet, unhurried way, already at peace in the dark, and it remains so still. From our distant view, almost nothing about it seems to have changed. The same vast calm holding across an unimaginable span. Imagine a deep, still lake that looks the same on every visit across an entire lifetime, its surface always quiet. Andromeda appears essentially unchanged, across spans of time so vast that 1,000,000 years makes little difference to its overall appearance. The calm we see is an ancient calm, steady and enduring. And there is comfort in that constancy, in resting beneath a peace so old and so reliable that even 1,000,000 years could not disturb it. Andromeda asks nothing of us, and offers its light all the same, shining steadily down on a world that mostly never looks up. The galaxy does not need our attention, our study, our wonder. It simply shines freely and without condition, sending its ancient light across the dark to whoever happens to be there to receive it. Imagine a lamp left glowing kindly in a window, lighting the road for any traveler, asking nothing in return. Andromeda emits its light continuously across space, regardless of whether anyone observes it, offering its glow freely. It does not require us in order to shine. It simply gives its light quietly and always. And there is a gentle grace in that, in being offered something so freely, so without demand. A steady light arriving night after night, gift enough on its own, even for those who sleep through every moment of its giving. Andromeda drifts, where time itself moves a little differently than it does for us, shaped by gravity and motion, in ways that subtly alter the passing of the moments. Across the universe, time does not flow at exactly the same rate everywhere. Near great masses, and at great speeds, it bends and stretches, so that the time within and around Andromeda is not quite identical to the time we feel here. Imagine two clocks set side by side, slowly drifting out of step across the ages, each keeping its own faithful time. According to relativity, time passes at slightly different rates in different gravitational conditions, so time near Andromeda differs subtly from time on Earth. Even time is not quite one single thing. And there is something quietly soothing in that, in knowing that the moments themselves are gentle and flexible, that time bends softly around the great things of the universe, unhurried and unbound, just as we hope tonight to come gently unbound from the hours and drift. This is where the script begins to ease towards stillness. From here on, the facts grow quieter, the images softer and the words slower, the way a room dims gently as the last light leaves it. Andromeda's vast outer halo glows faintly with gas, thinner than any air that has ever existed on Earth, a presence so sparse it is barely there at all. Surrounding the bright galaxy is an enormous, almost empty envelope of gas, spread so thin across so great a space that it makes the clearest mountain air seem dense by comparison. It is the faintest kind of glow, the gentlest possible presence. Gas so rarefied it is nearly nothing, and yet it reaches across an immense expanse. Imagine the last trace of mist over a field at dawn, so faint you cannot quite tell where it ends, and the clear morning begins. Andromeda's outer halo is filled with extremely thin gas, far less dense than any air on Earth, glowing very faintly across a vast region. It is softness itself, spread gently through the dark, and there is a quiet ease in picturing it in something so vast, and yet so light, so present, and yet so close to peaceful nothing. Long after this night has passed entirely from the world, after it has been forgotten by everyone and everything, Andromeda will still be here. The galaxy will go on through ages so deep that this evening and all its small concerns will have dissolved utterly into the past, unremembered, unmissed, and still the galaxy will turn calm and steady in the quiet dark. Imagine a star you watched as a child still shining decades later, over a world that has forgotten the child you were. Andromeda will continue to exist far into the future, enduring long after the present moment has been completely forgotten. It does not need to be remembered in order to remain. It simply remains. And there is a soft comfort in that, a way of letting go, in knowing that the great calm things of the universe will carry on gently whether or not we are here to recall them, holding their quiet light through every forgotten night. The light from Andromeda entered your eyes the moment you looked up, and in that meeting something very old and something very present touched briefly and were one. You need do nothing for this. Only lift your face, only open your eyes to the dark sky, and the ancient light comes in, ending its long journey in the soft quiet of your own looking. Imagine simply opening a window and the morning light arriving all at once freely the moment you let it. The light of Andromeda reaches your eyes in the instant you turn toward it, completing its long voyage in that single moment of seeing. And even now, resting where you are, you carry the capacity for that meeting, the eyes that could receive so old a light. You are made to be met by the distant and the ancient gently, without effort, simply by being here and willing to look. Andromeda keeps turning slow and steady through the long dark, asking nothing, hurrying nowhere. Around and around a great disk wheels at its ancient, unchanging pace, carrying its trillion soft lights through the silent dark, as it has for ages beyond counting. There is nothing frantic in it, nothing urgent, only the smooth and endless turning of something vast and deeply at peace. Imagine the slow, sure turning of the seasons, or the gentle wheel of the stars across a whole quiet night. Andromeda continues its slow rotation through space, turning steadily, as it always has, calm and unhurried in the dark. It will keep this gentle motion long after you have drifted to sleep. And there is rest in that, in matching your own slowing breath to so patient a turning, letting yourself be carried just a little by the same quiet rhythm that moves the oldest lights. Andromeda holds far more darkness than light, and rests easy in both, untroubled by all the empty space within and around it. Most of the galaxy, like most of the universe, is dark, vast stretches where no star shines wide, quiet voids between the scattered lights. And the galaxy is perfectly at peace, in this neither lacking nor lonely, simply whole, holding its light and its darkness together in one calm body. Imagine a night sky, with its few soft stars, and all its gentle dark between them. The darkness not empty but restful. Andromeda contains far more empty dark space than luminous matter, with vast dark regions between its scattered stars. The dark is not absence, it is part of the peace, and there is a deep comfort in that. In learning that darkness can be gentle, that it can hold the light kindly, and that to rest in the dark as you do now is to rest as the galaxies themselves rest. Andromeda will keep its slow course long after the question of us, whatever we were, whatever we wondered, has quietly faded from the universe. The galaxy will continue drifting and turning through ages so vast that everything about us, our names, our works, our wondering, will have gently dissolved into the deep past. And still it will move calm and faithful on its long, unhurried way. Imagine a river that will flow on through the valley long after every village along its banks has returned softly to the earth. Andromeda will continue on its path for billions of years, enduring long after humanity and all its questions have passed. It carries no burden of us. It simply continues. And there is a tender peace in that, a way of setting down all the day's questions. In knowing that the great calm things will drift on gently untroubled, holding their quiet course through every dark that comes after. Andromeda will meet our galaxy so far ahead in time that the meeting itself feels less like an event and more like a kind of peace, a slow and gentle homecoming across the ages. The union is so distant, so unhurried, so free of any drama or alarm, that it seems almost like rest, two great quiet things drifting at last into one another with infinite patience. There will be no crash, no fear, only the softest possible coming together across billions of years. Imagine two slow clouds at evening merging into a single soft expanse without effort, without sound. The merger of Andromeda and the Milky Way will unfold so gradually, so far in the future, that it amounts to a gentle and peaceful joining. It is the calmest possible ending and beginning, and there is deep rest in that thought, in knowing that even the meeting of galaxies is in the end a quiet and unhurried act of peace. We are nearly at the end now. These last few are softer than anything before fading like light at dusk. There is nothing left to learn tonight, only a little more to feel, and then rest. Andromeda has glowed quietly through every single night you have ever slept, present and faithful above every dream you have ever had. Every evening of your whole life, whether you knew it or not, that distant light was there, hanging soft in the dark over your sleeping house, shining steadily down through all your nights, through every dream, every restless hour, every deep and peaceful sleep. It was there unchanged. Imagine a quiet lamp that has been left burning in a far window every night of your life, never once going out. Andromeda has been shining steadily throughout your entire lifetime, glowing through every night you have ever slept. It has watched over all your sleep in its distant and gentle way, and it watches now as you grow heavy and slow, faithful as it has always been, a quiet light, keeping its long vigil over one more sleeping soul. The galaxy holds more darkness than light, and in that gentle balance there is rest, the same rest you are easing toward now. Picture again how much of Andromeda is quiet, dark, soft, and untroubled, the few scattered lights resting easy within all that peaceful black. The darkness there is not frightening. It is calm. It is the dark of deep rest, the dark of a room when the lamp is finally turned low and the day lets go. Imagine closing your eyes in a quiet room and finding the darkness behind them soft and kind. The vast, dark spaces of Andromeda rest peacefully between its scattered lights, far more dark than bright. And you too are allowed this. The dark is gentle. It holds the light kindly, and it will hold you kindly too, as your eyes grow heavy and the room around you softens and dims. The light from Andromeda is a gift sent long before there was anyone here to receive it, offered freely into a future the galaxy could not know. Ages before any eye opened on Earth, that light set out across the dark, traveling faithfully toward a world that did not yet hold anyone to see it, and it arrived all the same, given without condition. Imagine a kindness done quietly for someone not yet born, a small light left burning for whoever might one day come. Andromeda's light traveled toward Earth for millions of years, arriving as if a gift offered long before anyone existed to receive it. It asked nothing. It simply gave. And there is a soft grace in resting beneath such a gift tonight. in being among the ones at last, who get to receive it, held gently by a light that was always somehow on its way to you. Andromeda turns and drifts and waits in no hurry at all, content in its slow and ancient calm. There is no impatience in the galaxy, no rush toward anything, only the gentle continuance of its turning and its drifting through the long, quiet dark. It has all the time there is, and it spends it slowly, peacefully, without the faintest urgency. Imagine the unhurried drift of a single leaf coming slowly to rest on still water, in no hurry to arrive. Andromeda continues turning and slowly approaching across vast stretches of time, unhurried in its ancient, steady motion. It waits as gently as anything has ever waited. And you may wait this gently too, now letting go of every hurry, every task, every thought of tomorrow. Drifting as slowly and softly as the galaxy itself, in no hurry at all to be anywhere but here. The galaxy will still be drifting when you wake, and drifting still when you sleep again, faithful through all your comings and goings. While you rest tonight, it will turn. While you rise tomorrow, it will turn. Through every hour of your waking and every hour of your sleeping, it will go quietly on the same steady drift, the same gentle calm, keeping its long course while your small days come and go. Imagine the tide going out and coming in, faithful through every single day of your life, never once failing to return. Andromeda will continue its slow drift through space, without pause, turning steadily whether you wake or sleep. It will be there in the morning. It is there now, and there is a deep safety in that, in knowing that something so vast and so calm keeps its faithful motion around you, holding steady through your sleeping and your waking, a quiet constancy you can simply trust and rest within. And so we come slowly to the last of it. Feel for a moment how you are held right now, your body settled, and heavy gravity holding you as gently and as surely as it holds the trillion stars of that distant galaxy together. The same quiet force, the same gentle law. You and Andromeda held by the same soft hand, far above you, beyond the roof, beyond the clouds, beyond the nearer stars. That ancient light is still arriving, still falling softly toward a sleeping world, whether any eye is open to it or not. It is arriving now. It will be arriving still, as your breathing slows. Out there in the deep and gentle dark, the galaxy turns slow and silent and entirely at peace, and the cold, thin gas of its halo drifts, and its oldest stars glow low and warm, and none of it hurries, and none of it worries, and none of it asks anything of the night. Andromeda rests in the dark, vast and ancient, and entirely at peace. And you may rest now too, just like it, held by the same gravity, made of the same starlight, part of the same quiet and unhurried universe. There is nothing left to do tonight, nothing left to know. Only the slow turning of distant light, and your slow breathing, and the gentle dark settling softly all around. Let it come. Let it hold you the way it holds the oldest stars. Let yourself drift slowly, gently into the quiet. I hope you sleep well and dream softly. Good night.